Well, for the last year and a half, Apple's iPhone has gotten plenty of buzz, but now it has some new competition.
Starting today, T-Mobile begins selling the first cell phone with software designed by Google. Reporter Stephanie Abrams compares the G1 to the iPhone.
Google's devoured the internet and is now prepared to take a bite out of Apple's iPhone success with the G1 Android phone. Complete with a slide-out keyboard and Wi-Fi access, it's got the look and feel of a mini computer.
iPhone has something to worry about, that's all I can say.
So let's compare Apple's to Google's. Both have user-friendly touchscreens, and the G1's recognizes handwriting. Both have GPS Google Maps, but the G1's Street View kicks in with a compass, so you can move the picture with the phone.
Unbelievable.
The Google phone here has some great features, but is it user-friendly? We asked some folks here at Rittenhouse Square.
Most female iPhone users who tested our G1 had this reaction.
I really like it. The thing I like most about it is that it actually has a keyboard of that compared to the iPhone, because the iPhone keyboard is touchscreen and it's a little bit harder to use.
Men didn't.
The touchscreen on the iPhone pretty much does it all, and flip phones have a tendency to break.
Cell phone expert Jiren Parikh of Exclaim agrees it's not as sturdy.
It feels a bit plasticky compared to the iPhone device.
Look closer and you'll see it's not only thicker than the iPhone, but has a smaller screen. And our test showed T-Mobile's 3G service was slower than AT&T's.
I like it, but I still think it's a bit short of what the iPhone offers.
But Parikh says the G1 has
This is
a
a
great
day
future because unlike other phones,
I've been
its
looking forward to
operating
for
system is
2.5 years.
open to anyone who wants to develop
Is a
applications.
revolutionary mobile phone. Three things: a widescreen iPod with touch controls, a revolutionary mobile phone, and a breakthrough internet communications device. iPhone. Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone.
I just want to really quickly thank Andy and Peter again for their personal leadership. It's been a 3-year journey, so thanks once more time, and please give them a round of applause.
Okay guys, so we are comparing here the iPhone versus the T-Mobile G1. So this is the first ever commercially released Android device, and this here is actually the first ever iPhone known as the iPhone 2G. So what I'm gonna do guys, I'm going to power on those devices in 3, 2, 1, okay? All right. This one is on, this one just vibrated in my hand. And while they're starting guys, I wanna just set the scene right here. So we are already October 2019. So if you're watching this video from the future, know that these phones are really very old. I think iPhone was released 2007, 12 years ago, and the T-Mobile G1 released a while after the iPhone, I think in 2008. So again, 12 years old, 11 years old. So of course, I'm not going to do really like a one-by-one comparison. I just want to understand really, what back in the days were like the main differences between the ever first iPhone and the T-Mobile G1 phone, guys. I've seen around the scene there are some videos like this. I did not restore the ever first original iOS or iPhone OS on the iPhone, guys, and I'll tell you why. Because the very first iOS or iPhone OS 1 even didn't have the App Store. So actually what I'm running here on the iPhone is the very latest iOS 3.1.3, and actually it's not even like the POS. I think I have installed WideOS 7, which is kind of a modification of the iOS 3.1.3 that looks a little bit like iOS 7. And back in the days, it had Cydia, which is kind of like a replacement for the App Store, and some more tweaks like, multitasking, which was not really available into the original iPhone. Now, as the two phones already booted, okay, I'm just going to press the menu here. Let's just take a look around the design first, guys, and then we can discuss into some more detail. So here on the left hand side we have the iPhone with a 3.5 inches screen, guys, and on the right hand side I have the T-Mobile G1, which rocks a 3.2 inches screen size. And as you can see, actually the screen size of the iPhone is significantly bigger. All right, so here we have 165 pixel per inch, and here we have 180 pixel per inch, so this should be a little bit sharper, but in the end of the day this has, I think, a higher screen to body ratio with 52%, and here we have like 57%, so pretty much should be one and the same. This thing is really better, you know, design wise. It's just a very, very big screen, and you just have one button on the front, which is the very famous and now iconic, you know, home button. Here you can see you have a menu button, the home button. You have also like a drawing wheel that we also have on some other devices like BlackBerry and the HTC Orbit 1, I think, which was the HTC Artemis, so the XTA Orbit 1. Here we have the back and to hang up the phone. So design wise, those phones are quite similar. Here the screen is a little bit bigger, but guess what? All right, now I think this is where it gets interesting. Here, as you can see, this phone really rocks a more like solid model design. Here we have the Apple logo branding. Here we have, of course, the Google logo branding, and here we have the black part. Here this black part is covering the antenna, but you might ask yourself, you know, why this phone looks a little bit like cluttered and etc. And the answer here is, guys, that this phone here is not only a touchscreen phone, but it also has a physical keyboard, right? So believe it or not, but back in the days, I think around 2008, this was still perceived to be a major feature. And as you might have seen in some of my old videos, guys, even Steve Ballmer, you know, back in the days from Microsoft were laughing at the first iPhone, because apparently the first iPhone only, you know, were having a virtual keyboard and not a physical one. All right.
$500 fully subsidized with a plan? I said, that is the most expensive phone in the world, and it doesn't appeal to business customers because it doesn't have a keyboard, which makes it not a very good email machine. Now, it may sell very well or not. We have our strategy. We've got great Windows mobile devices in the market today. You can get a Motorola Q phone now for $99. It's a very capable machine. It'll do music, it'll do internet, it'll do email, it'll do instant messaging. So I kind of look at that and I say, well, I like our strategy.
And people were, back in the days, still were believing that in order for this to be a really business machine, you need to be able to send emails, you need to do some browsing, etc. But then it was expected for you, you know, to have a physical keyboard, guys. All right. Design-wise, I can tell that this is quite an interesting phone. You know, quite again, it's 11 years, guys, but it's very responsive, very snappy. Although, of course, it feels a little bit cluttered. But I want to show you also in the back when we do it like this. You can see here we have these hinges. I think that's quite interesting here, the black part. Again, it's a solid mechanism, but you know, this here 2007 was already like the future, because it was the phone only with a touchscreen and with one button, right? No stylus here, everything pretty much controlled with your finger. And Steve Jobs told us back in 2007 that the finger is actually our best stylus.
Oh, a stylus, right? We're gonna use a stylus. No. No. Who wants a stylus? You have to get them and put them away and you lose them. Yuck. Nobody wants a stylus.
It's called Apple Pencil. This Apple Pencil is absolutely amazing. And customers are going to feel it every time they use it. They can use it within built-in apps.
This here is kind of a hybrid phone, right? It does have, I think, all the features that you might expect to have from a touch phone. In the very first versions, even there were no virtual keyboard. Now, of course, I have it here on that version. But okay, it has also a physical keyboard and a little bit more of buttons, which is kind of making this, to me, a hybrid, okay? But let's continue further with the design of those phones, guys. So here, I think very standard for the iPhones. We have the volume rocker here, and then here we have the toggling between, you see here, going from mute to up all the volume, which is quite nice. And here you might see also we have a headphone jack. But don't fool yourself, guys. This headphone jack here is a little bit special. It's been recessed a little bit down below, so if you are using some headphones with a shorter connector, you're not able to fit them in. So originally they are designed to work only with the headphone provided from the Apple box. But okay, you can use them with an adapter, or maybe if you have headphones with a bit of a longer jack. Then here we have, I think, the proprietary Apple connector, and then here we have the SIM tray. On the back, of course, we have the camera. This is a 2-megapixel camera. Here, guys, we have again the volume rack on the left-hand side. We have here also the charging port, which is down below. Okay. Here we have a dedicated camera button, which you can use to do some pictures, to shoot pictures, right, and video. And I think what is also interesting is that apparently you can remove the cover of this phone, guys. You can replace the battery and you can sneak in up to 8 gigabytes of, I think, a micro SD card, right? So design-wise, I'm just thinking, okay, iPhone really looking a little bit more futuristic compared to the G1. So if we have to be honest and to compare the design between those phones, I think that the G1 will lose to the iPhone, because apparently Apple were setting here the new standard, and 12 years from the point this phone has been released. Now all the Android phones, guys, look already like the iPhone, right? So everybody really for now ditched, I think, the physical keyboards. Besides some of the BlackBerry, I think BlackBerry Key 2 still has some, but everybody pretty much now uses a full screen phone, right? Something more in terms of specs. So both phones are pretty much a single core. Here we have a 412 megahertz of a processor. Here we have a little bit more horsepower, 528 megahertz of a processor. And also, that is quite important, you can put here a micro SDHC card. Here, of course, you cannot put anything. This came, I think, with 60 gigabyte of storage, guys. So I think spec wise, it was like all the time the same. The Android phones were a little bit better than Apple compared of, you know, battery, milliampere compared of, you know, CPU and etc. But in the end of the day, you know, right now what happens with the Bionic L13, which is kind of crushing the latest generations Qualcomm Snapdragon, and every year is the same until next year, you know, Qualcomm are going to release the next Snapdragon and they're going to even out the powers. But this one here is, you know, pretty much very well optimized for the operating system, which is the iOS or iPhone OS. This here is running Android, I think it's Android 1. Let's just go see here, guys. I didn't show you. So if we go here to the settings and we go about the phone, then we can see here, all right, that we're using firmware 1.6, guys. So this is Android 1.6. Here you can see also the build number. I want to compare, guys, also the screen of those phones. I have pumped up the brightness so that you can see really more. And you can also see in my intro, kind of, if you're looking you know, directly to the screen while you're exposed to the sun, yeah, I'm not sure if you're going to see pretty much, but overall this kind of looks a little bit better. And let's now discuss some of the specs, guys. Now both phones are absolutely dead in terms of using whatever kind of application. So the App Store is not working on this one, even though I'm using the WireDoor 7. You know, you cannot connect to YouTube because, you know, the APIs has changed. So even if I'm trying to do this here, pretty much impossible. It will not run, guys. And what I want to do is open just, let's say, a page. I already tried to open the BBC one, so let's try to open the BBC one and see how it will work. So I have to accept the certificate here, and here to be able to key it in, I just will use the physical keyboard. All right, BBC homepage. Okay, all right, you can see that the iPhone is still loading. So I did connect both of the phones to my home Wi-Fi, guys. Okay, so the BBC.com, the iPhone 2G started a little bit earlier. Already something showing on the page. We can see some pictures here. Same, I think it's about pretty much the same, all right? This screen here looks a little bit better, guys, and maybe it's because it's actually a bigger screen. But okay, just the whole scrolling experience, I think, is a little bit smoother than what we have here. And also, there is the other thing here, you know, you can use your fingers, guys, kind of resize the text and then double tap to go back to normal mode. Here, I don't think that you could do this. In fact, you have to use here like a virtual button, you know, to zoom kind of the text, then you can go back. But, you know, back in the days, you could have done a lot of things with those phones. Right now, guys, I think you're just up to browsing. I think browsing experience pretty much about the same. If we speak about a camera, so let's start a camera here. I'm opening the camera as well here. Let's try to shoot something. Okay, this little car from McQueen. Okay, so I'm going to use first the iPhone, do 3 pictures. Have in mind, guys, that in the original iOS, you were not able to shoot video on this phone, right? Now with the modified firmware, you're able. So, okay, let's do a picture, do it again. Jesus Christ, this looks ugly as shit. Okay, 1 picture, second picture. Let's do a picture also with this phone. And the picture here looks really sharper, but okay, don't be surprised. The camera here is 3.2 megapixel. So let's do another picture. Let's remove the grid. Okay, autofocus on the iPhone as well. Let's shoot it from the same perspective, guys. So let's see both pictures. Here again, you have things to zoom, guys. Well, I think as to the software back in the days in the Android 1.6, you know, you don't have that feature. This here looks really better, guys, in terms of quality. Jesus Christ, doesn't look too bad at all, guys. Just compare the details. Maybe if you play along with this device you're able to get sharper pictures, but at the time the picture here that's on the G1 is I think it's absolutely better, but okay, here we have a 3.2 megapixel camera, guys. Let's speak software now. Something then back in the days, guys, the iPhone of course was a revolutionary phone because, you know, it would allow you to use your finger just to navigate through everywhere, but the home button, guys, is just a shortcut back to the home screen. I'm going down to the settings. If I press it, I'll go back. Now, because I'm running modified software, I still have some kind of like resemblance of multitasking feature in the original iPhone that's not there. And just take a look at how advanced Android was back in the days in the time, guys. So I can add widgets to the screen, you know, those are some things that you can even not do right now on the iPhone, guys. So if I just hold the home button, you know, I can go to the market, I can go to the settings. So there is kind of a multitasking already built into this version of Android, which the iPhone didn't really have back in the days. Okay, so if I just hold on the menu button, let's see what happens there. I can go change the wallpaper and I'll change the settings there. I just want to add some widgets, so let's see. I am holding up this one here. What I want to show you here, something else. In the very first iOS, you know, you can pretty much do nothing with these icons. You cannot move them. You cannot do anything, you cannot rearrange them. Right now, because again I'm using this modified firmware, we can do so, but you cannot delete them or remove them from the screen. And here, you know, look what happens with Android. So again, apparently, you know, just drag them whatever I want, and then of course I can just go and remove them. And two very basic things, guys. So if I press here like the menu button, you can see that I have settings, you know, I can go to notification, wallpaper. If I press and hold the home button, I have already something like a basic multitasking, but practically the idea is that Android built in kind of a very early version of the control center, which is absolutely missing from here. So guys, look at this. This is really amazing. This phone is already 11 years old, but when you do like this, you have, you know, like an app drawer. And I think this is really iconic for all the Androids because they still have this feature, right? And not only have you the app drawer, but you have also, you know, a notification panel, which you're completely missing here in the iPhone, right? So software-wise, I think that the Android was really far ahead compared to the iPhone. And have in mind that this year is even iOS 3.1.3, which is kind of like modified specifically for the iPhone 2G. So software-wise, I think Google were already doing a better job in terms of providing like more tailored experience to the users. You'll be able to change your wallpaper, which you can pretty much do here, but you can also add widgets on the screen, which you cannot do on the... You see, just see what happens here, guys. I press the screen and put an unlock lock. All right, now I can fiddle and wheel in with this unlock lock and I can remove it. Okay, so Android had pretty much nice features back in the days with the very first release of the G1, which were missing here from the original iPhone. If you have your opinion, guys, I'll be more than glad to see what you think about those two phones. You know, just put it in the comments below, and I hope that also you do like the video. If you like my video, guys, subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate now this support. And again, this was the ever first iPhone release from Apple, and this year was the ever first Android phone, or at least the ever first commercial Android phone, guys. So if you like the video, again, hit the like button, subscribe for my channel, and just go and have a beer for me. Bye.